Okay, looks like we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on what is our final community office hours for 2019. Yeah, for those of you who've joined us on any of the previous sessions, welcome back. This is now the third office hours we've done since opening up to the public, so hopefully you guys are becoming more familiar with the format. As always, just really quick introductions before we get started. So my name's Tay. I'm the product marketing manager for Flyway, and I'm joined by the rest of the Flyway team. We've got Johnny, Julia, Alex, and Mikkel. So I want to keep it brief this week because we've got a lot to cover, but essentially the aim of these sessions is to really show off the things that we've been working on in the team, tell you, the community, about what's coming up for Flyway and what we have planned, and then just really importantly to get your feedback and make sure that we think we're working on the right things, but we want to make sure that you feel the same. So yeah, that's kind of what the goals are. And I guess the only thing really left to do before I hand over the reins to the team is just to point out the question box, which should be somewhere on your screen. So as we go along, just any questions you have, feel free to drop them on in that box. We will leave some time at the end to get to those. And yeah, we should be able to answer quite a few of them today. So without further ado, just hand it over to Alex to get started.
All right, so since last time we did an office hours, we shipped a couple of patch releases, and they mainly contain bug fixes over the previous version, and a few are worth mentioning. So the first one is that we had introduced a command line option called log file in 6.1. But we had a few bugs around it, and we also thought that maybe it wasn't named correctly, so we decided to rename it to output file. And in the meantime, you can still use log file, but it's been deprecated. So we encourage you to move into this new name, and then it will be removed in a future version. We also have some fixes for some Oracle parsing bugs, especially around SQL+. And we also introduced support in 6.1 for Snowflake, and there were a few things to iron out. So those have been shipped as well in 6.1 and 6.2. That's pretty much it. I'm going to hand over to Julia, who's going to talk about the milestones and how we changed them.
Cool. So we've been through a lot of the backlog of GitHub issues that we've got. At the moment, we've got about 175 cases, which is obviously a lot to deal with. We've tried to amend our GitHub milestones so they're a much clearer path towards what you can expect to receive in each future version of Flyway. In the past, there have been an awful lot of cases in sort of the next milestone, and they've just ended up being bumped from next to the one after that to the one after that as each release has gone out. So we've just tried to clarify that, give you a lot more context around what's going to happen. So on our current milestone list, we have 6.1.3, which is just minor bugs that are going to be shipped pretty much as soon as possible. Flyway 6.2 is going to be the next minor release that we put out, and that will have actual features in it as opposed to fixes. 6.x is more features that we are planning to include at some point prior to Flyway 7, which is some way off. These should be fairly straightforward for us to do and ship to existing customers without causing any breakages or causing you to have to update your environments or anything like that. And 7.x is Flyway 7. These are going to be breaking changes, things that will be quite a bit more invasive. Obviously, we will try and support you through the upgrade when that comes as well as possible, but it's sort of like a holding area. And it's also where we're collecting things such as removing support for elderly databases that we can't maintain anymore. In addition to that, we've got two other categories. So this is where the real change is. We've got a category on the radar, which are requests that have come in. We're considering them. They may if they get enough traction from the community, they may get promoted into a 6.x or a 7.x, but we're still in that process of deciding, is it worthwhile going ahead? So please do comment on these as much as you can. Thumbs up as well. The more thumbs up, the better. The more likely we will pick them up in a future version. And then cold cases, which are issues which are there really for reference, things that we don't anticipate committing to doing. They're still not unreasonable requests. We're not going to close them, but they are definitely things that we're not going to work on in the near future unless they suddenly start attracting attention. So that's it. I hope that conveys a lot more accurately what we're planning to work on for the next few months. Right, and another thing we've been working on around for the community, there are a lot of database support requests that we deal with, and a lot of people have worked on adding support for their favorite databases. So we're developing a much more comprehensive guide about how to go about doing that. If you've got a database and you want Flyway to be able to work with it, but it's not something that we can commit to doing on a time scale that you want to, you can of course just fork the repo and start working on it. We'd like to make it easier for you to do that, and we'd also like to make it much clearer as to the criteria that we need you to satisfy if we're going to pull it into a mainstream version of Flyway and ship to the community as a whole. So pop that up. Have you got the document there, Kel? Cool. So essentially, in order to accept a new database into Flyway, we're looking for two things. One is a suitable quality of code, and we'll obviously try and give you as much assistance as we can to get code that meets the bar for the Flyway repository generally. We also need to be able to test effectively and on an ongoing basis. We do that for a lot of on-premise databases by having a Docker image in our test environment that we can spin up, run with Flyway, and shut down again. For cloud services, it's a little bit more complicated in that we generally need an approved test account with the provider that we can use to run tests against, that's not going to run up large amounts of cost just by sitting there not being used very much. So the guide takes you through what you'll need. So first big important thing is a JDBC driver. Most databases will support JDBC. If we can ship that driver out of the box, that's much better, because then that means we can create a frictionless experience for other users of the database if it goes mainstream. Obviously, you need then to be able to develop in Java. We've got some recommendations. We like IntelliJ, but you're free to use whatever environment you prefer. Then obviously we list out from the coding point of view the configuration options you need to provide in order to get Flyway to connect to your database. IDE settings, so you can compile Flyway and run it and test out a local version. And if you scroll down a bit further, then there's a fairly comprehensive list of all the places you'll need to add code. A lot of these are sort of choice points, say where we want to pick out the driver. We just need an extra case added to the list, so we recognize your particular database. And the second big part is Flyway builds up an in-memory representation of your database. There are a lot of default classes which will go so far, but these need to be customized for particular dialects of SQL, particular formatting options, particular quirks around schemas and tables and how they're created and dropped. And if you follow this guide through to the end, it should get you to a point where you can run Flyway with your favorite database. And if it works well, we'd love to hear from you and hopefully be able to incorporate it into our mainstream. I think that's it. I will hand back to Mikkel.
Julia, very quickly, just a quick question from me. That documentation, it's obviously in a Google Doc at the moment. We're planning to publish that somewhere?
As soon as everyone's reviewed it, we're planning to put it on the website under the technical documentation area.
Oh, great. Great, thank you.
Cool. Thanks for that, Julia. Just something slightly different. I wanted to let everyone know about this initiative that we've got coming up for 2020. So this is something we've been thinking about for a while, but we want to launch a Flyway advocacy program. This is kind of in the planning stages right now. We haven't ironed out the details, but the general idea is that we're going to be launching this program to allow our advocates to be able to make a greater contribution to Flyway and to the Flyway community. So we know there's kind of a lot of great content out there being written by people who are really passionate about Flyway, in supporting the project and in helping people get set up with it and get started and really make the most out of the tool. And what we want to do is really build on that relationship, give them greater access to the team's knowledge, and and in other ways kind of reward them for that work they're doing. And we think by giving them this program and by giving this official platform, we want to make it easier for them to reach a much larger audience and make it easier for those users who would benefit from finding their content, make it easier for them to do so. And we've kind of got a short list of people that we think would be a great fit and that we're going to be reaching out to, but we will be accepting open applications as well for that soon. The applications will go on the website. They'll be on the community page there. We'll also tweet about it when that's active. So yeah, if you're interested, please either make yourself known to us or just apply through there. And on the other hand as well, we're really interested in speaking to people from the other side of it, so the people who benefit most. We know that time and time again, the thing that's come up most is people wanting support around the initial setup experience with Flyway and more support during the proof of concept stages when they're evaluating and implementing Flyway. If this is something you have experience with, or if you felt like you could have benefited from more support in this area, please again just contact us. We'd be really keen to speak to you to see how we can kind of shape that into our advocacy program and just improve the overall user experience from day one from everyone. So yeah, just the usual channels, let us know.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about Flyway 6.2. So this is the next minor version, still fairly distant at the moment, but we have begun to move some stuff into the milestones for that and have started to work on some of them. So some of the headlines for that at the moment are an option to enforce migration file name format. So maybe produce an error warning if you have migrations of bad names in, just to help maybe less familiar people write, v __, etc. An option to run all repeatable migrations when you migrate. So this was a fairly popular feature request. So you can basically rerun repeatable migrations without having to make a change to them. And there's a color configuration option. So we've had a user request the ability to force the color characters on the output, so they can be maybe consumed by another automated process. So I'm going to do a quick demo of that color option now. So this is running on Windows subsystem for Linux. So I'm going to just do a quick run of Flyway on the command line, and you can see there's some stuff in gray, some stuff in white. That's the default behavior. It detects as a terminal, so it's going to print in color. If I pipe that to another command, say less, you can see the colors disappear. So that's that auto detection logic kicking in and saying, oh, let's get rid of the colors. So we've added an option. Oops. So you can do dash color. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Dash color equals never, always even, which is going to force the color characters into the output. So it looks fairly garbled, hence why we have the auto detection behavior. But maybe if you want to keep these characters in, for instance, if that automated thing does actually support it, so if less, you can do the -R, and that will then support them, the colors in the output. So that's a fairly it's like a utility feature, I guess. Makes Flyway a bit more flexible. Some people requested it, so we thought we would include that as a candidate for 6.2. Yep. And we're also likely to release a 6.13 patch for bug fixes that come in between now and 6.2. But again, this will be fairly minor, just bug fixes really. Oh yeah, it's the demo. And now we have a time of Q&A.
I haven't got any questions through at the moment, but I did have one question about the what you just demoed. Is when you mention color, would it be like different colors for things like warnings and errors and whatnot?
Yeah, so maybe to clarify, that option is, so we already have colorized output. So warnings are yellow, errors are red, for instance. This option allows you to force colors to either be off or on. It overrides our auto detection logic. So by default, we don't output colors if we don't think it makes sense. So it gives you an option to just force colors to be outputted regardless of what our logic says.
I see. Okay. I was looking for colors in your demo, and it was all grey or white.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I guess there weren't any errors or warnings in there, so.
Yeah, the grey was the color, so yeah. Sorry, it's a bit.
That's cool. Yeah, no questions unless anyone's. So we'll give everyone a few minutes just to submit any if they have any. Did anybody else have any questions about any of the things we're doing at the moment between us?
Not about any of the things being shown today, but I would just encourage everyone to get their questions in ahead of time as well. If you're watching the recording, it's not too late to send us your questions for the next office hours. So we do try and answer them if you get them to us via Twitter.
Yeah, no questions. So looks like we got away with it.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, as Tay says, if you want to get your questions ahead of time, then feel free to always tweet us at FlywayDB or submit them through the various other channels that we have, and we can queue those up for next time. We also put out the messages via newsletter, but I think Tay, you're about to wrap up with that stuff.
Yeah, I think Michele. Yeah, I'll do the next slide. Oh no, that is you.
Yeah. Yeah. So our next steps are to continue working on Flyway 6.2 and ship 6.13 if needed. We're going to think about our getting started experience. So particularly how we use a baseline command, and we would like your feedback on that. So if you can contact us through email or Twitter, that would be really helpful. And we're going to publish this database support documentation. So here's that slide you're looking for, Tay.
Yeah, just to reiterate that point, we are looking for your feedback, obviously, on the advocacy program, on any of the kind of work you've seen today, either already completed or upcoming. We want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, tweet us, comment on our next milestone, and I will, as always, follow up with all the attendees in this session, just personally via email. But yeah, the only other thing to let you know about is you may have received our end of year newsletter. I'm conscious there was quite a lot of content in that one. Just a reminder as well, a few days for you to complete our survey. So that's our end of year survey, helping us with our 2020 planning. So yeah, if you are watching this recording, check back on that newsletter, fill out the survey, in with a pretty good chance of winning the $250 Amazon voucher. But yeah, I think that about covers it. The next office hours will be on the 15th of January. And as always, the sign up link will go out on Twitter. So yeah, just keep an eye out there. Going to quickly ask the team if there's anything we've missed, anything else they wanted to highlight.
No, I think we've covered everything. Really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Loads of stuff in there.
Brilliant. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and see you in January.
See you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.